Yeah, right. It never stops.
Global holding.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh. Hey, Mukunda. Thanks for coming by. Is this your schedule now? Mondays? Good. Okay. Oh. Drum? Not yet? No drum? For you? Yeah, I played a drum. Give me the blue one. Thank you for that. Yeah, I've been picking this up more lately. Zach tends to blow out his fingers, and Acharya's on the altar, and that's what happened today. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Mitpad Paramahansa Buddhikacharya Ashtotar Tadashri Srimad His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBD Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Prajagacharya Astotar Tadashri Srimad His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Mukunda, you know about these lights, right? How to work them. You don't know how to. Marcy, you know where we are? 25? We've done more than 25. 25? 30?
Yeah.
I think he's right. Oh, wait a minute, I think we did that one too. Didn't we do that? The self does nothing at all. Well, I know we did 29.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll do 30. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 30th day of April 2018 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are on page 561 at the top, text 30. Reading from chapter 13, Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness, text number 30, page 561. Prakratyaiva cha karmani kriyamanani sarvashaha yak pashyati tatatmanam akartarang sapashyati prakratyaiva cha karmani kriyamanani sarvashaha yak pashyati tatatmanam akartarang sapashyati prakratyaiva cha karmani kriyamanani sarvashaha yak pashyati tatatmanam akartarang sapashyati. Go ahead, Marcy. Prakratyaiva cha karmani kriyamanani sarvashaha yak pashyati tatatmanam akartarang sapashyati. Go ahead, Mukunda. Prakratyaiva cha karmani kriyamanani sarvashaha yak pashyati tatatmanam akartaram sapashyati prakratyaiva cha karmani kriyamanani sarvashaha yak pashyati tatatmanam. Go ahead. Akartaram sapashyati. Prakrutya, by material nature. Eva, certainly. Cha, also. Karmani, activities. Kriyamanani, being performed. Sarvashaha, in all respects. Yaha, anyone who. Pashyati, sees. Tata, also. Atmanam, himself. Akartaram, the non-doer. Saha, he. Pashyati, sees perfectly. Translation. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. Purport. The body is made by material nature under the direction of the Supersoul, and whatever activities are going on in respect to one's body are not his doing. Whatever one is supposed to do, either for happiness or for distress, one is forced to do because of the bodily constitution. The self, however, is outside all these bodily activities. This body is given according to one's past desires. To fulfill desires, one is given the body with which he acts accordingly. Practically speaking, the body is a machine designed by the Supreme Lord to fulfill desires. Because of desires, one is put into difficult circumstances to suffer or to enjoy. This transcendental vision of the living entity, when developed, makes one separate from bodily activities. One who has such a vision is an actual seer. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Salakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Okay, let's turn to third chapter, text 27, because this is directly related to that verse. Third 27, which is on page top of 164. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. You see the relationship between these two. So this word kartaham, I am the doer. Now you notice that in text 30 of chapter 13, akartaram sapashyati, one who sees that he is not the actual doer actually sees. And he sees that everything is being carried out by Prakriti. It's practically identical verse here. But in chapter 3, text 27, he's talking about the one person bewildered by the false ego. Now the false ego is called ahankara. Here again we have, I'm the doer. Right? I am the doer. That's the false ego. The false ego. When one sees that he's not actually the doer, then he sees. So what do we actually do? In other words, as devotees, we have all kinds of things to do. That's why they call them duties, because there's so many things to do. And doing those duties for Krishna is what bhakti is all about. So why are we asked to do anything? Why are we supposed to do anything? By the way, here's another little editorial insight into the way Prabhupada uses words. Notice the second sentence. Whatever one is supposed to do, Prabhupada would use that word supposed to mean said to do. Whatever one is said to do, whatever it is supposed that one does. You see the difference? Whereas supposed to, he said, you should do it, right? It doesn't mean that. Whatever one is said to be doing, either for happiness or distress, one is forced to do. You see the difference? In other words, you have to see what's going on.
Would you change that because people will get the wrong impression?
Maybe. We'll see. Yeah. So in other words, there's a question here, because then where is our free will? If everything is being carried out by the modes of nature, and we're given this body, as explained here, by the super soul in order to carry out our desires, and then we're just watching as the modes of nature are working, all the way identifying with the body. So where does our free will come in? So our free will comes in our directing our desire. That's really where we have free will. Now, that can only be free when we enlighten the intelligence, when the intelligence is purified. Because only in human life do we have such a word as should. There's no question of this, speaking to the dogs and cats, you shouldn't do that, right? You get the rolled up newspaper, they're afraid of doing it. No, but in human life we have this idea of normative ethics, morality. In other words, the idea of a conscience. In fact, there's this very nice phrase that I learned many years ago that you never hear anymore, because it didn't catch on in ISKCON, but it's really a good idea. We need to get a Krishna conscience. Think about it. Krishna conscience means that we imbibe the understanding that we're meant to carry out Krishna's will. This is the whole point of the Gita, to bring Arjuna into carrying out Krishna's will. Not his own will, right? He is personifying us. He is representative of every man who is coming to the conclusion on the basis of his sense perception and his feelings for, I mean, he's a devotee, so they're good feelings, but still it's his own thing. And the higher meaning here is that Krishna wants this war to go on. Now he founds it very firmly on the idea that no one dies, right? No one's going to die in this battlefield. But then later on he says everyone's going to die. You see the paradox. All the bodies are going to die, but it's going to be for the good of everybody, even those who die on the other side. Everybody who dies is going to get a higher destination because they're dying in my presence. He doesn't say this explicitly, that's what happens. And as far as your fighting goes, it's fighting for the good of the world. It's because I want it. Everything is all set to go. And he speaks this Bhagavad Gita in order to teach us that this is your free will. you don't even know you have free will. You know, it's an illusion of free will as long as you don't have any reference to Krishna or God. It's simply choosing the different, like Prabhupada describes it, without and the understanding of Krishna consciousness, the human beings are just trying to get a better cell in the prison house, right? You're trying to become a trustee, so you get a little more time in the yard, you know. But you're not getting out of the prison, and the suffering is still there. In other words, it's a fool's errand. It's really vimudatma. Vimuda means very foolish. So, just the opposite is here in text 30, that we're seeing everything's going on by the modes of nature. The modes of nature are under Krishna's control ultimately. And when we desire to use this bodily machine in Krishna's service, then, you know, the material energy will help us do that. I see. But we ourselves are just sitting on the machine. It's just like the guy, you're driving the car, you know. You're not really, you know, making those wheels run. You're not, you know, pushing them yourself, you know. You're just pushing buttons and pushing the accelerator and the brake and so many things. So in one sense, you're just riding on that car, and it's already arranged. It's built in such a way that if you press the right button, it'll go. And for us, pressing the right button means desiring in the proper way. This very insightful. I remember when I first heard this thing, what the mind does: thinking, feeling, willing. This is so important to understand in Krishna consciousness. That at present time, in our 99.99% of the people are illusion, their intelligence, their understanding of who they are, what they should strive for, what good is, what happiness is all skewed. It's all wrong. Everyone is thinking, oh, if I can just get this sense gratification, I'll be happy, right? If I can just get this situation in the material world, I'll be happy. If I can just pay the rent, I'll be happy, you know? Well, okay, you pay the rent, and for a while you say, well, thank God I did that, and then next month the rent's coming up again. And it's probably increasing, especially here in SanDiego. So that can't be, but temporarily, it'll push back the darkness, you know, and you feel relief for a while. So that's what the material life is. It's all trying to negotiate with material energy in such a way that you'll have some peace and some little happiness and pleasure, and that's the best we can do. And you forget about the fact that the end is coming. The whole thing is coming. I just studied this one verse. Some of you may have heard this. Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam Mudamate. Have you ever heard that? This is a famous verse by Shankaracharya. Probably quote it all the time. And this is one verse that reveals how Shankaracharya was actually a devotee. He's actually Lord Shiva. He was assigned. Lord Shiva was ordered by Krishna to preach Mayavad philosophy, in order to bring people who had become saturated with Buddhist philosophy, because the Vedas had been people following of the Vedas had been corrupted, the Brahminical class in Kali Yuga, and they were using the Vedas as an excuse to kill the cows, because it says that it can, you know, sacrifice and all these different things. And so Buddha came on the basis of ahimsa. And he didn't base his philosophy on the Vedas. That's the big thing. He threw that out. But without the Vedas, there's really no hope. So Buddhism had to be defeated in India, and then it went east, became prominent in you know, the eastern countries, China and Japan and all those. So, but Buddhism is very minimal in India now. So Sankaracharya, the people were so saturated with this impersonal idea that he couldn't just reintroduce the actual essence of the Vedas, which, as Krishna says in the Gita, in the 15th chapter, 15th verse, is me. Vedaischa sarva ahameva vedya. By the Vedas, I am to be known. So he had this impersonal interpretation of the Vedanta Sutra, which is the essence of all the philosophy. And that was the stepping stone to bring back the actual essence of the Vedas, which is bhakti. So we have Shankaracharya coming back, and then spreading Mayavad philosophy. And then you have Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Lord Chaitanya's followers, you know, saying, no, real Vedanta is bhakti, bhakti Vedanta. That's the essence of bhakti. And Bhagavatam is essential for that. It starts out with the same words, Janma Yasya Yataha. That's the second sutra. First one is inquire into Brahman. What is that Brahman? Janma yasya yata, that from which everything has come, and which sustains everything and destroys everything. So the illusion is, so this thinking, feeling, willing. What do we, in our illusory state, we have no idea that we're not the body. We're identifying with the body. And our thinking, feeling, and willing is tied up with what are the interests of the body, and the subtle body too. Pleasing the mind, often that time is more prominent than the gross body. So by coming in contact with this philosophy, with someone who's beyond the bonds of matter, with the acharya, and who's giving the actual books, then another perspective comes on. And the intelligence says, no, I'm not the body. My self-interest is not just in bodily interest or in things related to the body, but rather the soul. So now you have this idea. Then you have to will to do things to realize that. Now, basically, I mean, willing, the first willing, this is chant Hare Krishna. That's, in this age, that's the essential thing that you're willing to try, right? And if you do, as soon as you do that, it opens up. You become so much more receptive to the philosophy. You're getting some realization just by chanting. So you're thinking and willing, and you're doing. You have this Krishna conscience developed. I should do this. I shouldn't do this. You see, and the more that you actually act on that basis, the more the realization comes. The more detached you become from matter, the more attached you become to Krishna and things related to Krishna. And so the feeling starts to awaken. See, first comes the thinking, then comes the willing, and then comes the feeling. It's not so cut and dry. There's some feeling already. But to really get on that platform of feeling, because after all, that's what bhakti is looking for. The ultimate goal is prema. It's a feeling. And then all of your thinking and willing is naturally geared to that. But before we get to that platform, we have to base it on clear understanding and practice of willing, and so that we can, so thinking, feeling, willing is so key. So here Krishna is teaching us that one who sees that the body is like a machine, and that it's acting according to prakriti, which means the modes of nature. And he sees that we are not doing anything in the sense that we ordinarily think of doing something. This came up in the 5th chapter. Remember the 5th chapter, he says whether opening the eyes or closing or hearing or thinking, he actually understands he does nothing at all. It was there in the 5th chapter also. These themes keep coming up. So it doesn't mean that we just don't do anything. He says in the 3rd chapter, you can't do nothing. If you're doing nothing physically, your mind is still going on. No, we have to do, but it has to be in tune with Krishna's will. And then everything falls into place. You feel yourself, properly situated. When we're not doing, Krishna's will, then we're in illusion. Then we're bound by time, we're bound by the limitations of this world, and we're heading toward another imprisonment in another body. So again, there's these two forces. The most powerful force in the material sphere is fear in the material world. Because, there's these 4 principles, right? Eating, sleeping, mating, defending. This is like the essence of material life, and even the animals are going through that. So the most powerful force there is fear. As soon as there's some danger, any eating, mating, or sleeping that's going on, it's cast aside, and you're either running or you're trying to fight. Ward off the danger. So, but what is the proper thing to fear? Krishna says, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshana Darshanam. That's your basic problem. Now how are you going to solve that? Most people say, we can't solve that, so we put that aside, we'll try to solve it. It's silly. It's the old ostrich, Well, those problems are just too huge, so I'll just solve these immediate problems and I'll call it a success. That's not a successful life. The successful life is to confront the main problems, and there's a solution to them. Until we came in touch with this philosophy, who could have a solution? Yeah, everybody's got to die, and then it's all over. And then we say, no, actually, it's not all over. Death is just this traumatic change of body. And then you're making your destiny now for what you'll be in your next life. It's a whole different perspective. But to solve that completely means to no longer be attached to this material world and no longer need a material body machine. This machine of the body is kind of our shackle to this world. You know, and these desires that you build up and they're unfulfilled, inevitably your mind is filled with all these unfulfilled desires. And that brings you to your next body, on and on and on and on, you know, for millions of births. So this is an essential realization to come to, is that I'm not actually doing anything. I'm simply desiring. And when my desire is in tune with Krishna desires, and we have abundant instruction, you know, what those desires are, then I'm on the auspicious path out of this material world. Because by this knowledge, it acts as a sword to cut off there's this, again, this nice verse, it echoes the second chapter, so I can remember. Tasman naro sanga susanga jata gyanasine naiva vivrikna moha harim tadiha katana shutabhyam labdasmriti yatati padamadvana. This is the end of the 12th chapter, 5th canto, text 16. This is Jadabharata instructing King Rahugana. And he says, therefore, by carefully controlling one's association, because you remember Bharata told him the story, how he had got this deer's body. Remember, because he got attracted to this little fawn. Who could resist, you know? Anyway, he got so attracted to the fawn, the helpless fawn, and the fawn was attracted to him. And so he thought of the deer and he became a deer. But he was so advanced that he remembered his previous life. So he avoided the deer association. He would always hang out near the ashrams and listen to the katha, you know. So when he left that body, he was in the body of a Brahmin, but he played dumb, you know. This is called Jadabharata. Jada means stupid. He played at being stupid because he didn't want to get entangled, you know. So they said, what are we going to do? He was very strong. So they put him out in with the cows, take care of the cows. Okay, you guard the cows, you know. Anyway, it's a long story. So he gets captured by the worshippers of Kali. They want to make a human sacrifice out of him. And so he's just surrendered. You know, he's like Ambarish, whatever Krishna wants, you know. So they wash him up nicely, they feed him, you know, wash him, and then they get ready to chop his head off. And Kali's looking on, you know, with the garland of skulls, you know, and all these weapons and the fierce eyes, you know, and she sees this is a devotee of Krishna, you know. So she comes out of the statue and she chops the head off of all of her worshippers. And saves Jadabharata. But Jadabharata, I guess it was after this that he got dragooned, you know, into working as a pelican bearer, you know, for this king. He was strong, but then he didn't want to step on the ants and the little beetles, you know, in the forest. So it's an uneven ride, and the king got angry at him and started chastising him. And so Jadabharata, who hadn't spoken, you know, he started speaking this philosophy, and the king said, "Oh my God, he's a great sage." He jumps down off the palanquin, offers his obeisance, and then there's a whole chapter or two or three on his instructions to King Rahugana. So this is the end of one of the chapters, and he's saying, therefore, my lord, and he's describing the dangers of material attachment. And he says, therefore, you have to watch your association. The whole thing is association. So he said, tasman naro, a human being, tasman naro sangha susanga, sangha susanga, by asanga and susanga. In other words, by not associating with the materialists and associating with the devotees, that will generate the jnanasina, the sword of knowledge, by which you can cut off illusion, vivrikna moha, the illusion that on this body, the illusion that, you know, the sense gratification is pleasure, like that. And then, that's not the end of it, haring tariha katanashutavyam. So iha is a word that means activities or pastimes, actually. Then by hearing and repeating and chanting the glorious pastimes of Hari in all of his incarnations and everything, one will attain smriti, labda smriti. Now this has two meanings. Prabhupada defines it as one remembers, one regains his remembrance of the spiritual world. In other words, all of this stuff is known to us, and now we're remembering, you know, where we were. Vishwanath Chakrabarti says, that can mean also that one gains constant remembrance of Krishna. Constant remembrance, that's the goal. You know, that's the safety. Like Prahlad, that's what his strength was, meditation, never forgetting. So, and then that, yat yatipadam, then one goes very quickly and nicely on a path back to the spiritual world. Atipadam udvana, the path, you know. Nice verse. And Prabhupada has this little purport. It says, this is why we've started this Hare Krishna movement. Now in those days, joining meant moving into the temple. And we are providing room and board. Anyone can come, live with us, and, you know, practice for this purpose. So that's what, you know, that's why we need the classes. So he's saying to just, you know, use the body as a machine. Don't get attached to it. And develop all your desires in such a way to serve Krishna. And then when you leave this body, that'll take you to the spiritual world, those desires. Basically, it's all a question of desire. You know, there's this wonderful verse that says, Krishna bhakti rasa bhavidamati kriyatam yadikatopi labhyate tatta laulyam abhimulyame kalam janma koti sukatayana labhyate. You know, you've heard this one before, Damana? Maybe. So this, Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya are conversing. So they're talking about, you know, highest levels of bhakti. How do you, Krishna bhakti rasa bhavitamati. Now this is a very important phrase, because Prabhupada said this is where he translated this first line as Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness. So Krishna bhakti rasa, you know, the mellows of Krishna bhakti. Bhavitamati, one's mind absorbed in Krishna bhakti rasa, in other words, Krishna consciousness. Krishna bhakti kriyatam yadikatopi labhyate. You should try to buy it if you can find it somewhere. You know, kriyatam means to buy. But what's the price? Tatra laulyam abhimulyam. Mulyam is a price, so it's a play on word, laulyam and mulyam, right? The only price for it is your desire for it, your greed. In other words, intense desire. You got to have it. You know. You may practice pious activities for millions of births and you'll never get it. You won't get the Krishna bhakti, you won't get the greed for it. You won't get either of them. So how to develop that greed, that desire? Let's explain the Upadeshamrita. It's already in there. All of our desires for things in this world are just diversions of that original desire for Krishna. This is the idea. That remember the third chapter, he says, Kama is simply prema that's been corrupted by contact with material energy, with the modes of nature. And so the whole point is to redirect our thinking, willing, feeling toward Krishna, so that the natural desire comes out. You remember in the Upadeshamrita, he gets to the point, I think text 7, he says, Syat Krishna nama charitadi satapya vidya pito patapta dasanasya narochikanu. That the holy name, form, qualities of Krishna are by nature very sweet and attractive. But in our conditioned state, we don't taste him as such. It's just like, you know, I mean, all of us are like interested in Krishna to some degree, right? We come here, we like to see the deity, chant the holy name, take prasadam, right? So that we weren't born with that. It developed from contact with devotees and contact with Krishna chanting and so forth. So you notice, you know, people, you know, like anyone who comes to the temple, you know, what we saw during the festival, we were out there in Balboa Park, you know. Well, okay, people come by, they're somewhat curious, you know, and you realize, well, it's probably because the rhythm section is going pretty good right now, you know. And people are like, that's always an attractive feature, you know. I notice as soon as I start playing the double beat a little bit, you know, people go. So, okay, fine. So now they're, you know, and some of them, people are really into it. I mean, there were devotees out there. This guy comes by with this strange suit on. Did you see that? And he's got a bead bag. I mean, he's serious, and his girlfriend or whatever, they're sitting there for a good half an hour, listening to the kirtan. There's devotees out there, you know. But most people come by, check it out for a few minutes, and off they go. In other words, the interest isn't there because they're covered over. But, you know, those of us who stayed are like chanting for hours, you know, you get into the holy name. After a while, the mind kind of surrenders a little bit, and you can, this is nectar, you know. So what is that? What's going on? The soul is by nature attracted to Krishna. It's just this mad mind that's keeping, you know, that's diverting it. So what Rupa Goswami says, he compares it like we have jaundice. Jaundice is really means two things. It mostly means the condition of yellow that comes from hepatitis, but it can. I looked it up. It can also mean the hepatitis itself. So probably. So in hepatitis, I once had a serious case of hepatitis. Just when the moonshot was supposedly going on, it was on TV. I was in the hospital, July of 1969. I was in there for a month with hepatitis. It wasn't C, it wasn't B, it was A, but it was still serious. And so, you know, nothing tastes good. You know, the sugar, nothing was sweet. I actually experienced that. And, you know, that's a classic thing. There's too much bile in the blood or something like that. So when you get cured, though, sweet things taste sweet again. So similarly, you know, how many verses? There's like 3 or 4 I know that Modora Modora Meitan, the holy name is the sweetest of the sweet. Modora Modora Bi, you know? Okay, I accept that, but you know, we chant our rounds and sometimes the mind is one. We're not tasting it. If it was really sweet, as sweet that we would be so absorbed we wouldn't want to stop. It wouldn't be any good. Just like this gentleman in the corner here. What's his name? Did we learn his name? What is it? Juan. He's come out. Will he be tomorrow, you think? Or is he? That's good. I saw him. He chants for 2 hours. He doesn't seem to wander. His mind doesn't wander. He's really into the holy name. This is great. Well, I mean, he doesn't go anywhere. Most of us are getting... Huh? Oh, wander. Interesting. The idea is that it's all really, really sweet. And so what he says is, in this verse, because of the bile of ignorance and illusion, it doesn't taste sweet. But kint vadanat anuninang kalosai vajishta. That if every day, anuninang means daily, okay, following, one chants them anyway, one does it anyway, then gradually the disease is destroyed at its root and the natural sweetness of the name, form, qualities, pastimes of Krishna returns. So again, it's just a question of purification of the mind, the senses, the intelligence, everything. You know, that's the whole process. So this is part of it, to understand that we're not really involved in this material world. This is not our home. This, you know, it's all like in this one phrase. Asango hyayam purusha. Asanga means not attached, not involved. Certainly, purusha, the living entity, is not really connected to this material world. We're categorically different energy. And it's just this incredible construction, you know, this, you know, we're living in an age when the truth itself is under attack. In other words, the whole idea that that the truth is an important thing to try to find out is under attack. You know, it hasn't been like this before. And so, you know, lies. What's the reality? You know? And there was in the 2 administrations ago, there was this quote. I don't know exactly who said it, but it was probably Cheney, the vice president, that we're creating our own reality, and you people will have, you know, newspaper guys, you'll write about it, and then we'll create another reality, and you'll write about that, and you'll have to deal with that, you know. And that's what they did, you know, to start a war and kill thousands of people and horrible things in Iraq. They just told these lies. He's not attributed to them, but everything it must have been him. That's what they do, you know. It's the big lie. I mean, it works. If you tell, if you're, you know, you have all the megaphones, you know, 1984 quote, you know, the book, and you're able to control the message, so people are educated this way and they think this way. Then what are they going to believe? And then they'll act on that way. Now the problem is it's not reality. It's a whole lie, you know, false construction. It's just like we're living. You know, that's what Maya is, right? Maya is the greatest propagandist. So you're convincing people, you know, everyone that yes, you are the body. Of course, you're the body. What else could you be? And yes, you know, this is your interest to make the body comfortable and pleasant, you know, you know. But it's a huge lie. It's an illusion. It's her duty to illusion us or delude us. So but Krishna ultimately doesn't want that, and so he comes himself, he sends his representatives, he speaks his books, and in order to give us enlightenment. But we have to have at least the receptivity enough, you know, to come in touch with it and be curious enough and start the process. So that's what's going on here. So what he says there, if you practice, you know, even though it's bitter, still chant Hare Krishna, eventually the disease will be destroyed at the root, and everything will become so sweet as sugar candy. I mean, you know, everyone likes sweets, but everyone knows before long you can't just eat sweets all the time. I mean, you learn that when you're like 4, your mother, you know. But oftentimes you get off the wagon and you know, eat too many sweets, right? But it's not natural for the body, you know. But if you could actually eat sweets all the time, why would you stop? And if there was no bad reaction, that's what Krishna consciousness is. That you can always be tasting this, and that's why the, you know, Goswamis are like so austere. They don't even eat. They don't need to eat. They don't want to eat. Prabhupada said, I heard him on the tape. He said, actually, you don't need to eat. The soul doesn't need to eat, but the body needs to eat. You know? But what the soul needs is Krishna, food. That's what you need. There's a verse like that. Bhakti pareshana bhavarakta anya chachai satrikekakara. Papujyamana sitasha tushti pushti chudapaya nagasam. It compares Krishna consciousness with eating, with, you know, taking. So there's 3 things going on. There's tushti, pushti, and chudapaya nagasam. Tushti is satisfaction, and pushti is nourishment. And chudapaya nagasam means the hunger is going. So it compares to the bhakti, pada isha anubhava, and virakta anyachacha. These are 3 things compared. So the bhakti here means bhakti rasa, the pleasure of, you know, relationship. That's tushti. That's real satisfaction. Pushti is the experience of Krishna, which nourishes the soul. The direct experience of Krishna, which nourishes the soul. That's why if you really get into Krishna consciousness, you know, for example, you feel a nourishment that's not a physical nourishment. It's something that you've been missing for millions of years, billions of births, but it's satisfying. That's why these devotees, they get into these big kirtan melas, you know, and you find you go all day. We don't even want to eat. You know, you find, you know, okay, we'll take a little prasadam, but let's get back to the kirtan. You know, it's like you really feel the nourishment and you get a taste. And the chudapaya nagasa means detachment from everything else. You know, all the other things that you've been thought were so important and not important. All right, let's go on. Yada bhuta patak bhavam ekastam anupashyati tata eva cha vistaram brahma sampadyate tada. When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception. Purport. When one can see that the various bodies of living entities arise due to the different desires of the individual soul and do not actually belong to the soul itself, one actually sees. In the material conception of life, we find someone a demigod, someone a human being, a dog, a cat, etc. This is material vision, not actual vision. The material differentiation is due to a material conception of life. After the destruction of the material body, the spirit soul is one. The spirit soul, due to contact with material nature, gets different types of bodies. When one can see this, he attains spiritual vision. Thus, being freed from the differentiations like man, animal, big, low, etc., one becomes purified in his consciousness and able to develop Krishna consciousness in his spiritual identity. How he then sees things will be explained in the next verse, which we'll deal with tomorrow. So, just one more little taste of Prahlad Maharaj, because we haven't, with all of our 2 days we had worth of katha about Lord Nrsingadev and Prahlad, which is very nice. Dravida Prabhu was amazing. So was Radhadasi. But they didn't really get into the prayers so much, you know. So just a couple of sharing of some of the prayers. Prahlad, he has this one that I always come back to because it's so illuminating. He says, Yasmat priya priya viyoga sayoga janma shokagnina sakala yona shadaya mana. Dukkaushanam tadapi dukkam taddyaham bhumam brahmami vadameta vadasi yogam. So he's painting the picture of the material situation in the first 3 lines. Priya apriya viyoga sayoga janmagna sakala yonasa dayamana. Burning in a fire of shoka, of lamentation and suffering, due to 2 things. Those things which are dear to you. In other words, just being in the material world, you become attached to things. Primarily the body of the mother, and then it goes out there and so forth, and things here. And those things you consider dear. But by the force of time, they're taken away from you. Your very body, becomes a source of pain rather than pleasure. In other words, so that's taken away one by one, or all of a sudden, or like that. And that's the source of anxiety. The prospect that it will be taken away and when it's actually taken away. And the things which are apriya, abominable, repugnant, you don't want them, they're forced upon you. And this he calls a fire of lamentation, shokagnina. And not just in one birth, but sakala yonashu, all kinds of species, birth after birth. This same thing is going on. So in the human form of life, we're more intelligent, so we can have various remedies for the misery, these difficulties, to try to maximize the things that are dear and try to ward off the things that are, painful. That's called the dukkha aushadhi. But lo and behold, these solutions are sources of more dukkha. Now they have, I'm just reading, or maybe you're keeping up with this, there's this climate change. For those who are really aware of what's going on, there's too much carbon in the atmosphere. The human beings are screwing things up, right? A lot of species are going by. I'm telling you, there's hardly any birds anymore. When I came here, there'd be 2 times in the season, when the seasons had changed, a whole bunch of birds would come, and very, very noisy outside. They'd be lined up on these wires here and making a racket. You remember? You lived here a long time. Because they're migrating up and back, and then SanDiego would be like a stopping point. When's the last time you heard a bird song around here? Even the seagulls you don't hear anymore. There's definitely fewer birds. And insects, we need them. We need them for pollination and everything. There's not, they're dying off by droves. So they said, now they got an idea. It's called geoengineering, I think. We are going to really, we're strong enough now, we have the technology. We can we're going to dump something up into the sky, some kind of dust or chemical, to block the sun, so they won't get so hot, Hello? You can see where that's going to land, Or do something in the oceans to negate the carbon dioxide. It's like DDT. They came up with that. Or the antibiotics. Antibiotics. Oh yeah. We're going to kill all the germs. So they just feed these to the cows. They can get them fat faster, and they come into the body and they kill our own good germs. Bacteria. It's just screwing everything up. So antibiotics were necessary to get rid of the disease, but now they cause a bigger problem. That's dukkaushadam tadapi dukkam, and all because atadhyaham. This is 3 little phrases. Atadhya aham. I think I'm something I'm not. Atadhya aham. You see? I think I'm this body. So what's his solution? He's not going to figure it out in the technology. He's speaking to Lord Nrsingadev. Please instruct me in your dasya yoga, in your bhakti yoga. That's the only solution. A higher source of knowledge by which we can understand how to live in this world peacefully and get out of it. Anyway, that's one of the verses. All right, I don't want to stop our usual thing. So we'll start there on 32. Is it 32? Yes, 32 tomorrow, right? Okay. All right, we should read a little bit of our Nectar of Devotion, which we have neglected. Not neglected, but yes, last week was Krishna Book Week. So this will be Nectar of Devotion. And we shouldn't ignore our Nectar of Devotion, very important book. All right, let me just press the right buttons here. Nectar of Devotion. And, okay, I think we're still in the first chapter. Yeah. characteristics of pure devotional service, and the first one is relief from distress. And if you recall, the distress is caused by sin, and sin is caused by ignorance. So the solution is knowledge, so we know how to act. By performing Vedic ritualistic activities, by giving money in charity, by undergoing austerity, one can temporarily become free from the reactions of sinful activities, but at the next moment he must again become engaged in sinful activities. This sounds like a Jamil chapter. This is how can one be free of sinful reactions. For example, a person suffering from venereal disease on account of excessive indulgence in sex has to undergo some severe pain in medical treatment, and he is then cured for the time being, but because he has not been able to remove the sex desire from his heart, he must again indulge in the same thing and become a victim of the same disease. So, medical treatment may give temporary relief from the distress of such venereal disease, but unless one is trained to understand that sex is abominable, especially illicit sex, it is impossible to be saved from repeated distress. Similarly, the ritualistic performances, charity, and austerity that are recommended in the Vedas may temporarily stop one from acting in sinful ways, but as long as the heart is not clear, one will have to repeat sinful activities again and again. Another example given in the Bhagavatam concerns the elephant who enters a lake and takes a bath very seriously, cleansing his body thoroughly. Then as soon as he comes onto the shore, he again takes some dust from the earth and throws it over his body. Similarly, a person who is not trained in Krishna consciousness cannot become completely free from the desire for sinful activities. Neither the yoga process, nor philosophical speculations, nor fruitive activities can save one from the seeds of sinful desires. Only by being engaged in devotional service can this be done. There's another evidence in 4th Canto Bhagavatam, 22nd chapter, verse 39. Sanat Kumara says, "My dear king, the false ego of a human being is so strong that it keeps him in material existence as if tied by a strong rope." This is a very nice verse. Yat pada pankaja palasha vilasa bhaktya karma shayam koditam budgutayanti santa. Strong ropes. Only the devotees can cut off the knot of the strong rope very easily by engaging in Krishna consciousness. Others who are not in Krishna consciousness but who are trying to become great mystics or great ritual performers can't advance like the devotees. Therefore, it's the duty of everyone to engage himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness to be freed from the tight knot of false ego and engagement in material activities. The tight knot of false ego is due to ignorance. As long as one is ignorant about his identity, he's sure to act wrongly and thereby become entangled in material contamination. This ignorance of factual knowledge can be dissipated by Krishna consciousness, as confirmed in Padma Purana as follows. Pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness is the highest enlightenment, and when such enlightenment is there, it is just like a blazing forest fire, killing all the inauspicious snakes of desire. I don't know that verse. I'd like to learn it. The example is being given in this connection that when there is a forest fire, the extensive blazing automatically kills all the snakes in the forest. There are many, many snakes on the ground of the forest, and when a fire takes place, it burns the dried foliage and the snakes are immediately attacked. Animals who have 4 legs can flee from the fire or can at least try, but the snakes are immediately killed. Similarly, the blazing fire of Krishna consciousness is so strong that the snakes of ignorance are immediately killed. And that ignorance is the source of sin, and sin is the source of suffering. And that ends the little section on the first benefit of Krishna consciousness, which is klesha gni, destruction of suffering. And Rupa Goswami is so intelligent here. It's like advertising. In a sense, the great acharyas, they're trying to sell us on Krishna. You know, somehow attract us to buy into it. Now the price is going to get your whole life, you know, but the result is enormous. So how do you sell someone? Well, you have to try to, you know, immediately attract them and think that this will be benefit for me. So the first thing is, all your miseries are destroyed. Well, that sounds interesting. Maybe I'll investigate. Right? And then, so he has 8 things here, I think. So the next one is, Krishna consciousness is all auspicious. Everyone wants something auspicious. Rupa Goswami has given a definition of auspiciousness. He says that actual auspiciousness means welfare activities for all the people of the world. At present, groups of people are engaged in welfare activities in terms of society, community, or nation. There's even an attempt in the form of the United Nations for a world help activity. But due to the shortcomings of limited national activities, such a general mass welfare program for the whole world is not practically possible. The Krishna conscious movement, however, is so nice that it can render the highest benefit to the entire human race. Everyone can be attracted by this movement, and everyone can feel the result. Therefore, Rupa Goswami and other learned scholars agree that a broad propaganda program for the Krishna consciousness movement of devotional service all over the world is the highest humanitarian welfare activity. How the Krishna conscious movement can attract the attention of the whole world and how each and every person can feel pleasure in this Krishna consciousness is stated in the Padma Purana as follows, and we will pick that up tomorrow. Thank you for your attention. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
No, they have one altar and all that.
Yeah.
Small, sing a song, small replicas.
Yeah, I've heard that it's way in front of your car. Yeah. know how to, the other talker was saying some people play the charter way, that's like the first years.
Oh, you mean with the ice?
Not like the actual whole charter, but like a separate little.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that, Michael. I think I know that.
Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Vipate Bhakti Vedanta Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON be found in our church, Sri Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Prabhupada Paramahansa Pradika Church. Bestow to the Srimad Divine Grace, Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki Jai. Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Prayer to God, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Sri Vasadi Gaur, Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna, Gopinath Shyam Radha Gita Govardhan ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Navadip Mahaprabhu ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki Jai. Ganga Mahi ki Jai. Himuna Mahi ki Jai. Tulsi Devi ki Jai. Bhakti Devi ki Jai. Sri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Grand Dental Book Distribution ki Jai. Sri Prabhupada ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glory to the Son of the Lord.
Hare Krishna.
All glory to the Son of the Lord.
Hare Krishna.
All glory to the Son of the devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga.
All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga.
Namaste, Namaste, Hare It says, Tabakada Kamala Vade,
Tanner means useful except Tarun.
Tanner is another form of Tanner. But it's a
and no one could play it like Prabhupada. And then so eventually everybody's like, Prabhupada, no one can play it because you're expert, so why don't we just record you singing and then we'll record you playing and you can play it over? And Prabhupada's like, I'm not expert. You want to do it. Yeah, very much.
What is this? You get this one. Looks like it's here ready.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, I wonder like what Sampradaya would remember. I mean, obviously he was both. Obviously he was both in Kolkata, so probably